Philip, you said 8. It's 9, right?
Nine. Well, it's 8 somewhere else, I guess. Anyway,
That's 8.
9 o'clock. Welcome to Fridays with Phillip. Today is April the 28th, 2022, and we are calling an audible. Had a conversation with our guest speaker last night, Rick Haase, who's already on the line here, and he's got to get off the call by 9:30. So all those that tune in late are going to miss most of what we talk about, but we still have a lot of statistics and data to go over relative to the current market in the Middle Tennessee area, as well as all of the United States. So you want to hang on to that, but we're going to lead off here in just a second with Mr. Rick. But before we get there, I want to toss out a couple of advertisements for you. First of all, is to congratulate us collectively on being part of the 6th largest real estate brokerage in America. That's a pretty big freaking deal, y'all. The bigger part of it is what you see highlighted there below is that 2nd fastest growth rate and 5th in transaction growth in 2022. So you guys are a huge part of that. Kudos to you. Those are your sound bites for your clients, for sure, to understand who Benchmark and United is, because we're in this together. If you'll recall at the Benchmark Summit back in March, we talked about the performance of all the top 20 companies. I specifically highlighted the top 8 companies, real estate brokerages in the United States, and talked about how much money they were losing. So here's a recent report out from Real Estate News, which is part of T360, which clearly identifies United and us as part of 5 of the top 20 who had growth in 2022. That means that 15 of the top 20 did not have growth in 2022. So again, part of a celebration there. And then they are all, except for EXP, they're all privately held companies. Peerage is a name you may not recognize, but that's a Canadian holding company that owns several large real estate brokerages in the United States as well as in Canada. Howard Hanna, of course, you recognize at Properties primarily in Chicago, and they started in Chicago, branched out. They now are the primary Christie's affiliate, Christie's real estate affiliate in the United States. So to be one of 5 that had growth of the top 20 in 2022, that's a pretty big freaking deal again. So another soundbite for you. And I'm leading all this up to Rick's introduction, so y'all bear with me here. Want to also remind you about Elevate Conference coming up in September. We have about 25 folks registered right now. I would love to see that at 200, 250. With 1,530 agents, there's no reason why 200 of you at least can't get there, because it is an important event of learning, networking, and becoming better at your craft. Keynote speaker, Allison Levine is head of the women's Mount Everest climbing team, and has some good information to bring to us. We have another announcement here on Brian Scholl, and Rick's going to tell you a little personal story about Brian here in just a second, but he was a SR-71 Air Force pilot. Before that, he was also a Skyhawk pilot in Vietnam. He got shot down and blown up. So he's got a real compassionate story to tell, and we'll get into that here in just a second, Rick's personal story on that. Just a reminder, it's September 10th through 12th. It's actually the 11th and 12th of the main days you want to pay attention to, but those are key events. It happens to be at the Swan Dolphin Resort. If you don't care for Disney, fine. This is a Marriott hotel, so it could be anywhere. It's a nice hotel. We had it there last year, a great pool. This could be a great family vacation for you if you wanted to lean into that. The other thing that is part of what we're going to talk about today is an upcoming webinar with virtually the head of Fannie Mae. Doug Duncan is a senior VP and chief economist. He's actually turned down leadership of Fannie Mae more than once. Absolutely genius man. This costs you nothing to sit in on this webinar. You can register Benchmark Dash, click on the Bullseye tab, and then Learning Academy. And we'll talk more about that here in just a second. But I wanted to lead that into Rick's introduction. And it's kind of funny that, when people hang out together for a longer period of time, the longer they hang out together, the more they look alike. And that is a snapshot that was taken back in January at the leadership meeting down in San Antonio. And like, dude, this is getting weird now. So with that said, I want to introduce Rick Haase, the president of United Real Estate. So Rick, how you doing this morning? Your mic's turned off, bud.
I'm doing well. The sun is shining, and Philip, that picture, I don't know why. I don't think I've seen that picture, but I sure do like it.
Well, the
Yeah,
thing I'll
except for
notice I'll call out specifically for the benchmark ends here is the lapel pin that he's wearing in the photo and the lapel pin he's wearing right now. So that's a dedication to the brand, y'all. So there you are.
bet.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Philip, what a great way to start.
And by the way, I did all
there's
that
some-
since 6 p.m. last night when you threw me the curveball. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Guys, just so you know, our momentum continues, and Philip talked about our ranking nationally relative to sales volume and our ranking nationally relative to units. So we have a value that we pay close attention to here. We have a mission, but we also have a value, and one of the values is growth. That can be taken, that word can be applied to individuals, the growth of individuals in their career, whether they're brokers, owners, managers, agents, top producers, entry-level agents, but we pay attention to growth. And I'm going to mention the Learning Academy in just a minute, why we're investing so heavily in that. But those growth opportunities exist. So when we talk about rank, and this is kind of a mixed bag, when we talk about growth, ranking is an indicator of growth. So we don't beat our chest and say, hey, we were the 139th largest real estate company 4.5 years ago. And now, through organic growth, franchise network growth, and merging with companies like Benchmark, we're all the way up to 6. In fact, I think that the latest, one of the studies says we're 5th. One of the reporting agencies says we're 5th. So ranking is an indication of success. But frankly, it's like, I'm glad the industry pays attention, but we don't really care. Our trajectory is what's important. Are we moving up?
Yeah.
I have a saying around home office and beyond. It's not the fact that we have a high ranking. It's that. Let me cut to the chase. You know what I look at one stat: productivity per agent. That tells me if we're on mission or off mission nationally. Our mission statement is to improve or change the financial trajectory of an agent or broker's career and sometimes even their life. And anything we do, somebody says, hey, Rick, got a good idea. We're going to put this program in place or that program in place. The question I always ask myself and to them is, how does it change the financial trajectory? How does it improve the financial trajectory of our agents or brokers' careers and lives? And
we hammer on that well. Yeah, we hammer on that here, Rick. I'll tell you, we hammer on that all the time, because I say over and over again, our mission here is to improve the lives of others. And if we're not improving the lives of others, then we have no mission. And that's exactly what that dovetails nicely into what you're saying. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's perfect. I love to hear about alignments, Philip, and as you know, we value the diversity of opinions, but we like to hear about alignments, and that's one of the things we spent a lot of time on prior to even merging our two companies. If there was a lot of misalignment on deep-seated stuff, we wouldn't be together with you, and you wouldn't be together with us. So it's not the growth. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a good example. There's a competitor that you may come up against periodically in your market called Compass, and Compass is a company that it grew by any means possible. And they did it, and they destroyed the profitability opportunity of any company, including some of their competitors. So Compass is roughly 90 days away from running out of cash. And when I say running out of cash, you just take their historic burn rate, how much they're losing every month. They've never made a profit. And then you project it forward based on their cash balance, and you realize that profitability is not in the cards for them in the coming period. And so we don't ever want to be that. We don't want to ever be that kind of person, and we would never do anything to help you guys run your business that way. We can't, like the federal government, print more money and call it success. We got to actually make money, and that brings me to, the long way to say hello. But one of my favorite days of the month always is when I get to actually connect with and see your pictures. You're out there talking with our agency. Talking with our agents is my favorite thing to do, and you're out there every day doing what I used to do in my career, which is list and sell, door knock, expired listings, for the sale by owners, sphere of influence, doing all the things that I needed to do to fill the top of the funnel with business. So I'm glad to be here, Phillip. Normally when I do these meetings, and everybody, just to give you an idea of the difference, when I get to meet and I have these meetings, I usually begin with some market prognostications. Where have we been? Where are we now? And where do I think it's going? People like to ask me those questions. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it because I know what's coming in Phillip's presentation. I don't want to be redundant. But I also know that of all of our companies around the country, you have the opportunity to connect with the person who makes sure that that learning and data happens. I'm getting this weird thing happen on the screen. Who's drawing pictures around Phillip's? What the?
I don't know. I don't see it. So, oh yeah, I do see it. Oh my gosh.
Somebody's circling their glasses. Well,
that was Chad's MacBook that's doing that. So Chad, stop it, dude.
Hey Chad, stop doodling, Chad. We can all.
There you go. Thank you.
Hey, that's a first. So anyway, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about things that we're doing at the national level. And one of the things that we're excited about is, and Phillip, this is a public congratulations. I know how much you crave all that. That note the sarcasm, everybody. But Phillip's promotion to Executive Vice President of Strategy is an indication of how well we feel about you as a company and Phillip. And man, congrats. We need you, and we appreciate all the advice and input you can give us on the strategy. And just so you know, guys, we're a short period away from making some pretty cool announcements about how we can help you grow your net worth. And Phillip is tip of the spear on that project. But I'm gonna get myself in trouble if I keep talking. I won't do it.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Don't do that, Rick. Don't do that.
No, I won't. I won't. I'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
But okay, so a little bit about that conference. One of the challenges we're having at the home office level here in Dallas or Kansas City, the support team. The challenge that we're having, one of the challenges, making sure you understand that the Benchmark National Conference is your conference. It's not United's conference. We run what we call a house of brands. So Benchmark and VPR in Atlanta, 4,000 agents, and 2,200 agents in St. Louis, Kansas City, and Charles Ruttenberg down in Florida. Those are our companies, and we sometimes, because we say United, sometimes people go, oh, that's the United conference. What does that have to do with me? It is your conference. So right. You're going to have a lot of opportunities to connect and link in and register. And Phillip, thanks for bringing that up. The lineup this year is it's just astounding with the keynote speakers. But then we're also doing best-in-class agent panels. That means top agents who are top listers, top selling agents. We're putting them all on panels and facilitating learn from your peers, as well as nationally acclaimed keynote educators and presenters. So you mentioned we've got Allison Levine. I saw Allison a few years ago. She led the first, and I think still only all-woman team to summit Mount Everest. And she tells a story about how she and her team got herself to that level of performance. We also have Brian Schul, as you said, Phillip, and Brian and I met when I was about 30, could have been 31. I was at the Cleveland, Ohio International Airport and at an air show. I love aviation, especially military aviation, for what it does for this country. And I was walking up to a pilot who was standing outside of his jet, and I'm walking up to him, and he had a, kind of a pilot, perfect silhouette, green flight suit. And as I approached him, he heard me and he turned around, and I'm going to meet him, I'm going to talk to him. Great moment for me. And when he turned around, this man who you now know as Brian Schul, and this 30 years ago, his face was completely deformed. deformed by what looked like burn scars. And his arms, his flight suit was rolled up high, and his arms were melted away. Very, very damaged human being. And I remember after about 20 minutes of that conversation, walking away thinking, I'm really glad, this is so personal, you guys, I don't want to tell you. I'm really glad that I didn't telegraph my surprise and shock when he turned around. That would have just been terrible. I remember that feeling. Fast forward, it's 2 years ago. Phillip and I are at the National Aviation Museum in just outside of, or no, it's DC, right, Phillip?
Yeah, right at DC.
And I start talking to one of the museum docents, and I tell him, hey, I met a guy who flew one of these things, an SR-71 Blackbird, the highest flying plane in history, 80 to 90,000 feet in altitude. And
it's
the
a huge
fastest
plane,
price,
a huge plane, by the way. This thing is just humongous when you're standing next to it. You see it in a picture. You say, oh, well, that's like a little bit bigger than a fighter. When you're standing next to it, this thing is huge. So go ahead with your story. I didn't mean to interrupt.
So I'm talking to this older gentleman and I said, I met one of these guys. He crashed. He got burned up in one of them. And he said, oh, no, sir, this plane's never been hit by anything. No fires ever hit it because it flies 3+ Mach. And that's faster than any rocket can ever fly. And as a jet engine, that's a remarkable feat. So Brian's part of the 3+ Mach club. So anyway, but he says, but that pilot didn't fly this because no pilots ever crashed in this aircraft. And it was built in the 60s, and it still holds all high altitude and speed records. So I'm confused. But anyway, we're wrapping up this conversation. I got to go because everybody's leaving. And he says to me, oh, wait a minute. I think I know who you're talking about. He did get shot down, but he got shot down in, I think, an F-14 Tomcat in Vietnam. And that's where his accident. When I met him, he spent 2 years in the hospital, dozens of surgeries, and got himself back to flight status, and they gave him the air show tour. So I'm going on a little bit because what happened to that man in his accident and his horrible injuries, he overcame those challenges, and he used a process to do it that he's going to share with us. Well, not only did he get certified to get back in the air and fly A-10 Warthogs, which was the plane I walked up to that day, not only did he do that, but he got certified to fly the most difficult aircraft in the world to fly. You have to be astronaut certified to fly it. Mm-hmm. So he overcame all of those objections, and he's going to come tell a story about or all of those hurdles, and he's going to come tell us a story about how he did that. I looked him up after that museum visit a couple of years ago and started a conversation and reconnected a relationship, and I asked him to come talk to us, and he's got a story, and he tells it in a very, very compelling way. So you guys will not be disappointed. Just so you know, we spent about $1,500 per attendee on this program. We passed through $499 or $500 of it. So this is not a profit-making enterprise for us. We spend a lot of money to help you get the education, training, and development you need to have some fun in a world-class organization. Now, we can make a pretty clear argument that Walt Disney's probably rolling in his grave about what current leadership has done to that organization, but it is still a world-class fun organization, and we're staying at the Marriott on Disney property. So we hope you can make it. Please give serious consideration to coming and develop your national network, connect with all of the senior leadership of the company. You already got Phillip, but there's more. And then, have a great educational and networking experience, build your referral network. I'm going to get in trouble, right?
No.
All right.
Fine.
So,
yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Don't put this on the internet, but we just also signed a woman. So we have Allison Clark, Brian Schul, and another woman that we signed last night. This isn't out yet, but we signed Lee Brown, who's an expert real estate trainer, educator, and she's going to come talk to us and be our third keynote. So, and we're feeling pretty cool about the fact that last year we had 3 male keynotes. This year we have 2 female keynotes, and of course Brian's coming. So we balanced out that whole thing. So
I'll tell
Anyway,
you,
long story.
last year we had, you've heard Drew Hendry especially have a little sticker on his desk that says "Glad to be here." That came from last year's speaker, who was there you go, right there. Yeah. Who was a Blue Angels pilot. And I still follow him. I still follow John on the internet. He is a very uplifting, motivational. So all of these, yes, it's motivation, but there's also a lot of tools and education going on in the side rooms most of the time. So you'll want to try to attend that. I want to back up just 1 second, Rick, and talk about Rick. You guys may not know this, but if you look at all of the big real estate companies in America, very few of the top leadership have actually sold houses. Okay. That's a big deal. It's a big differentiation point. Personally, I have closed 700 plus transactions in my career. And I would dare say that the fellow you're looking at there, Rick Haase, has also closed 700 plus transactions in his career, as well as running multiple brokerages. And that is a real phenomenon in the large real estate brokerage space. So tremendous assets at the table here to understand the boots on the ground and the struggles and challenges that we have out in the field as we continue to list and sell real estate, for sure. I just wanted to kind of back up on that. Yeah.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, no, and when you start at 18, it's a whole different, there's a whole different world. But you're right. Yes, more than 700 houses, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate. I had great mentors, and if you hear me talk at all about my past, which you hear me talk at all, it's all due to the people who slowed their roll to give me the best advice. And one of those advices that was uncomfortable, when you're 18 years old and you're selling houses, it's, kind of a live. I was independent living at that point. I didn't live with my parents at 18. I just went right into real estate, moved out, and thought I was going to slay the world. But I had a lot of good advice, and that one of those things was make sure you always sharpen your saw, always re-educate, always learn new things. The Learning Academy is an indication of our commitment to that. That is a multiple six-figure effort, to understate it. And we've created a distribution system and a platform for training, education, and development of our agents. One of those programs was Jared James, end of last year. This year, we've had a couple others, one for management, one for, because of the persistence of my assistant, my EA, her name is Berta Alili. I saw Doug Duncan talk, and Doug is a brilliant man, and he's literally he follows the philosophy of make sure he's in the best seat for himself. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as you guys know, are two agencies that make the lending market in this country. You can say FHA or FHFA, but Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, without them, there'd be no mortgage market. The house business was very different. Well, anyway, Doug essentially has all the organization reporting to him, and then he's labeled senior vice president and chief economist. Brilliant guy. So we called him, and his assistant said, "No, he doesn't do that kind of stuff for real estate companies." And it's too big of a job running Fannie Mae to do that. So she was persistent, and we ended up getting a meeting with him. And through that call, about an hour long, he said, "Okay, look, I'll do it." And so he's coming on May 4th. There's a time that Philip will tell you about. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Lee Brown is doing her keynote address on the 7 deadly sins of real estate, of sales rather. And so that's going to be a great presentation. But on May 4th, you're going to get a chance to hear directly from one of the guys that makes the mortgage market work in the United States of America. So that, as luck would have it, I'm going to give you this real quick. The Biden administration has put forth some legislation to change what's called LLPAs, loan level price adjustments. Now, all that means is there's something that mortgage people who issue credit look at to determine what that loan should be priced at. So if you have a low credit score, you're going to have a certain rate. If you have a high credit score, you can have a better rate because the risk is lower. Well, the Biden administration has put forth some legislation that is going to take some money from the people who have higher credit scores by raising their cost and channel that into the lower credit scores and lessen the cost to that group. Now, they're doing it for all the right reasons, which, sorry, I'm going to get political. They're doing it to increase opportunities for the underserved communities of the country to help them get into home ownership. But I kind of rail. So anyway, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the two agencies that have to implement that policy, and it's politically charged. So we happen to have Doug Duncan coming in. We got a call with him later today where I'm going to ask him if it's okay if I talk to him about that on camera. But that's going on. There's a lot of changes. The best way, when I got into business, Phillip, talking about my history, there was a sales process that went like this: prospect for business, qualify the prospect, make sure you're dealing with somebody who can buy or sell, make a presentation, overcome any objections, and close hard for the order to make sure you walk away with a listing or a closed sale. That 5-step process is an antiquated process today. Buyers and sellers want pure consultative advisory capacity selling, and that's what will give them the confidence to make a decision to move forward. That process is really important for us to understand, that in order for you to have that consultative, trust-building kind of engagements with buyers and sellers, you need to be able to educate at every opportunity. I always say there's 2 times when you need to learn. One is when you're new to a job, and the other is when that job becomes new to you. The job of real estate sales is always becoming new, and this is really an intense period of change. So using our Learning Academy to be able to learn, to get all the information you can, so you can communicate that to your buyer and sellers, landlords and tenants, and build their trust in you, is what this core mission is about. That's the way we're going to improve the financial trajectories of our agents' lives.
Absolutely.
So, I can talk for hours, Phillip, but so please, guys, go online, go to Bullseye, register, go to Dash. Sorry, I forget what the channel is for you guys, but get in, register for the conference, come see Doug. Make sure you go to Game Changers, which is live, it's happening now. And I sure hope to see you and be able to shake your hand in Disney World at the Swan and Dolphin Hotel.
Yep, I know it's right on top of your time where you got to blaze a trail, Rick, but we appreciate you being here very much. And a lot of the stuff that Rick is talking about, we're going to get into here in just a second with the data of the markets and what's happening with the Federal Reserve and all that good stuff. So bear with us here just a minute longer. But Rick, thank you.
Hey, Phillip, can I just say one thing?
Please.
I would be remiss in it. I feel like it'd be even a dishonor to my early mentors. The thing that differentiated me from other people at a young age wasn't that I was smarter or looked better or more professional. None of that. All that mattered is that I knew what my daily number for prospecting was. And my settled down number was 25 a day, Monday through Friday. And all that meant was 25 people a day. I had to ask them, are they thinking about moving or selling? Do they know anybody who's thinking about buying or selling a house? And when I had that discipline of prospecting, at the beginning, it was kind of hard. I had to remind myself and notes all over the place. But later, it just became habituated to that. I just became habituated to that process. So sharpen your saw, prospect daily for business, so you can fill the top of your funnel with opportunities. Those are the key cornerstones. And last, I would just say, watch your operating expenses as we're in a market that's paring back in terms of total number of units. Be careful that you don't overspend, chasing the shiny new objects that the real estate industry can throw at us from time to time.
With all the tools that we have to offer, you really don't have to spend much at all to sharpen that saw every day.
Yeah, we're doing our best, man. Hey, Phillip, once again, love you guys. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for being such a high integrity company. And setting the high standard that you do.
Setting the benchmark, son. Setting the benchmark. All right. Thanks for being here. Rick, we really do appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry it's so quick yet, but hey, I've got to jump because we've got a company with 600, this morning is 600 agents that are about to join us, and I got to get on the phone with their principals.
Well, straighten them out. If you need me to help you, holler.
Yeah, we will. Thanks,
Cool.
everybody.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. All right. Well, thanks for hanging with us, y'all. Want to kind of restart the PowerPoint because, as I said last night, we called an audible about 6 last night, so I had to kind of rebuild everything. And then we have, so we're going to throw a few advertisements here, and a shout out to Momentum Title for helping us support the tools. So your support of Momentum helps support the tools, pay for the tools that you use on a daily basis. October 12th, mark it on your calendar right now. Let's see. Somehow my share dropped off. There we are. Now we're back. All right. So October 12th, mark it on your calendar. That's the day of the Benchmark Expo. We're going to have it at the same location. I'm not sure exactly yet who the keynote speaker is going to be, but we're going to figure that out soon. So put that in red on your calendar, October the 12th, 2023. Moving on to the next slide, we talked a lot about the Dash. Everything we just talked, Rick and I just talked about, is available via the Dash. And one of the things, there seems to be a lot of question about where I go to find this, where I go to find that. If I see those questions on the closed Facebook group, and we have the events calendar in the upper right-hand corner there. We have most of everything you can imagine that you would need would be right here in this center section, with the agent resources, the Benchmark University. You can even schedule some help, get some CE credits through CE Shop there. Everything you can think of right here is there. And we will soon have an AI-powered chat feature on this site, which is pretty cool because it works from a library that Gus is building right now of basically topics and subjects related to the Policy and Procedures Manual. So you can type in the chat, what is our policy on this, or what about this? How do I do that? How do I do the other thing in the chat feature? And it will bring up the article, which will be an excerpt from the Policy and Procedures Manual. So we're even making it so that you don't really even have to read the Policy and Procedures Manual anymore, refer back to it. You can just go to that chat and figure it out. We will have that launched soon. I don't exactly have a timetable on it because it is a Herculean project, actually. So you want to tune in for that. Training and events calendar is out already. You have the digital version on the Dash. You also have a paper version that's hanging up in all of the offices. If you guys will ever stop by the office, you can snapshot this, take a shot of it, or you can just refer to the training events calendar on the Dash. We have a really full calendar in May of some really cool stuff. We have, of course, orientation. If you've not attended orientation yet, that is always available. We have a role-playing workshop coming up on the 19th. This is hands-on, in person, not recorded, playing different roles and getting better at your skill. We're going to talk about Chat GPT on the 23rd. So check out that calendar and be sure you are there for the classes that you find interesting. Again, it's on the Dash. Now, we talked about with Rick earlier the Bullseye system, which is United's dashboard. Essentially, you can access it through the Benchmark Dash, and then clicking the tile that I just circled in red there will bring you to your productivity resources. And all the classes we just discussed that we mentioned and all the webinars we just mentioned are here in the Learning Academy for Bullseye. So when you click on that, it brings up a whole raft of information that's available to us. And before long, at some point in time, we're going to be partitioning off part of this Learning Academy for Benchmark, but we're still in that process. Tremendous resource in addition to Benchmark Dash. But once you click on Learning Academy, one of the first things you'll see is what we were talking about, Doug Duncan's webinar on May the 4th. By the way, quick side note, the Federal Reserve free market, open market meeting, the next meeting is the 3rd and 4th. So we'll be talking to Doug on the day of the second day of the Fed Reserve meeting. So probably during that call, they might even be making the announcement on what they're doing with rates. So you'll want to tune into that and get registered for it right now. Again, Benchmark Dash, Bullseye, and then Learning Academy. Also in the Learning Academy is the Game Changer series. Now, I got to tell you guys, if you have not been tuning into this, you are missing out. Yes, it's recorded, but they're not going to release the recordings until after the entire series is finished, because they want to drive in-person attendance because it is so tremendous. On the first one there that we had back on April 11th, we highlighted Meredith Smith in our West Nashville office. She did an outstanding job talking about the difference in the past markets and the current markets. The one this week on the 25th was about listing success, about how do you go get listings, how do you get leads, how do you build your business. And these are all top producers. These are 40 and 50 unit per year people that are on these panels, and you learn a lot in the back and forth. And Doug Adams MCs that, and Doug Adams is VP of Broker Services for United. He does an excellent job at keeping the conversations on point. These are not advertising pitches. This is education that is key and fundamental to building and growing your business. And you want to try to tune in if you can. The one coming up on May the 2nd is really cool because it's the deep dive into social media. Everybody's all gaga about social media, right? So you want to tune into that to get some these guys have sold like 30, 40, 50 houses a year off social media. If you want to learn how to do that, this is an excellent opportunity for you. And all of this costs you nothing. We bring that to you absolutely free. All you have to do is show up. So please do that. We're also having office watch parties. And if you are interested in you think that would be a cool thing to have, we had one on the first one, the West Nashville office did, the Murfreesboro office did. Go talk to your broker and say, hey, broker, let's do a watch party for this next one coming up on the 2nd. And they can put it together, and they have a budget, and they can buy food if they want to, or they can get a sponsor if they want to. And we had 2 brokers that stood out and actually did that, and it was awesome. So if you're interested in that socialization and that networking with your fellow agents, talk to your broker. They can arrange it for sure. We'll also want to remember discoverbenchmark.com. We are still paying you $300 when a referral joins us. An agent that you referred to us joins us. What they've been here for 2 months, we're going to write you a check for $300. And within a couple of weeks, we're going to give that new affiliate, if they qualify, there are stipulations, but if they qualify, we will help them with their brand conversion assistance there. And if you want to just send them to that website, Discover Benchmark, or if you want to reach out to Bo Zivak and make the introduction, you'll want to stay connected to them. We're not going to give you $300 just for giving us a name, because anybody can go to RealTrax and do that. What we will do is give you $300 for helping us bring quality people onto the team. We appreciate that very much, and we give you money to show our appreciation for that. Please check your files. And my voice was cracking there even talking about this because it's such a painful topic for me. But please check your files in Paperless Pipeline. All you have to do is click the Paperless Pipeline link to check your files. Right now, we have 125 transactions that are past their close date, that we've not heard anything about extensions. We've not heard anything about new closing dates. And that is a constant issue that we fight. As of the 8 o'clock yesterday morning, we had 125 past due. So all you have to do is go to the pipeline, go to the dash and click the pipeline tile, and you are logged into your account. You don't even have to remember any other passwords. Just click the tile. It'll show you what's happening, and it will show you which ones are past their close date with a big red flag on of your transactions. Last little piece of advertising here. Remember that Friday the 5th is coming up. The first Friday of each month is when we charge for the fees. So if you've had a bank change, if you had a credit card change, please reach out to your office manager and update your bank account and credit card information. We typically have 35 to 40 people who haven't done that during the month. They changed credit cards, forgot to tell us, and it's a repeat labor process for us to invest in. And then also, if you have moved, the state law says you must notify the real estate commission of your new address, and we require it as well. So that at the end of the year, when we're trying to communicate with you with a 1099, we're not sending it to the wrong place. So be sure to send us, as well as core.tn.gov, your new address if you have moved anytime recently. Now, big announcement. So if you haven't heard anything I've said so far, listen to this one. We keep hearing over and over again, what about property management? What about property management? What about property management? And a little background here is that we used to allow our affiliates to participate in property management, and then TREC kind of changed their rules and said, we're going to view each property you manage as a real estate transaction and hold the broker responsible for all the paperwork, all the accounting, all the documenting. Oh, and by the way, the Landlord Tenant Act also is now on the brokerage. So that's why we quit. That's why we quit having property management under Benchmark flag. But everybody needs it, and especially in this market where you're having people that stay in the houses longer. So we've made an arrangement with Artisan Property Group. We have a contract with them. We have an agreement with them, and you know the owner of this company is John Krawczyk. If you heard us do the Franklin Firefighter Toy and Clothing Drive, he is the one that heads that up. He's a part-time firefighter, also about to retire from that, but he's been in real estate. He and his team have owned a Artisan Group Property Management for a number of years now, and they have about 250 doors under management. So our agreement is this, and I think this is the most sweetest agreement that I have ever seen. Very generous, very generous. They're going to return the client to you that you refer to a property to them to manage. They're going to return that client to you when it's ready to sell or buy another one. They're going to assist you. Now, this is one that's really dangerous because we don't want lots of dogs and cats calling them, bogging them down. But if you need assistance analyzing a property, the feasibility of making it a rental, then you can call them and they will consult with you on that. They will give you $250 for each property referred to once the lease is signed, and they will pay you 25% of their management fees, monthly management fee for the remainder of the lease, and they're going to pay you all of that at once the property lease is signed. We will have a full announcement on this with all the details and the links coming out in your email within the next few days. But I wanted to go ahead and kind of give you a glimpse of what's coming down the road, that we have resolved the property management question. All right. I'm seeing a lot of people getting way out over their skis on their advice to clients here. So we did a video on the 5 things that are not your job. The last one is you are not an attorney. Okay. Keep this in mind. The last one is you're not their counselor, but okay. Point being, you're not an attorney. This video kind of walks you through a checklist, a guide list of how to behave in the marketplace. And I'm telling you, people, if you get too far out over your skis, you're going to get in trouble. The attorneys are circling. They are circling every day. It's getting worse every year. They know you have insurance. They know you have big insurance, and they know they can lay a claim and cause a lot of grief. Yeah, you didn't do anything. Yeah, you'll win, but you can never get back the days of your life that you will spend defending a frivolous lawsuit. And that is a guarantee. So pay attention, be cautious, you'll be fine. Watch the video. I want to pause for just a second and say we lost one of our affiliates this week. He was actually one of the first agents in our Hendersonville office, and we were sad to learn of John Stidham's passing. He had some issues, health issues over the last few months, and lost a dear family member. In fact, while he was in the hospital recuperating, his 13-year girlfriend passed away as well. So a sad situation, and we have a post on the closed group for the visitation, and you can participate in that if you want to. The other one I want to call out is something that's going on today. Tuesday Smith and Kevin Smith. Tuesday Smith is part of the Eddie Poole team in Mount Juliet. They have really had some struggles. Kevin was in a serious accident. I can explain the details to you offline if you want to know, but they're basically in Louisiana in a hospital for the past 30 days. He hasn't even healed up enough to be able to come home because they have multiple surgeries that they have to perform. But he broke many bones, lost most of the skin on his legs and most of his teeth, and lots of internal injuries. It was a really bad accident. So pray for these families. If you feel led to participate, there's actually Melanie Rich is putting together a golf tournament today. It's actually going on right now, as a matter of fact, to help Tuesday and Kevin with their expenses. So there should be plenty of information out there if you want to participate in that, but please keep them in your prayers as you go along. All right, enough with the advertising. Let's do some numbers. You ready for this? This is the part I love, right? We talked about United being the 6th largest. We talked about United having being one of 5 that experienced growth in 2022. And if you missed the summit presentation, we have that recorded on the Benchmark Dash. You can go to Agent Resources to the Learning Academy there and find the information. If you can't find it, send us a text message. We'll point you the right direction. But I talked about in that presentation how much money was lost by the top 8 companies in the real estate world last year. And that number, FYI, was $1.6 trillion. Compass that Rick mentioned just specifically a while ago, which I'm not knocking Compass, but they have a serious issue. Their stock price opened at about $21 a share, and then opened this morning at $2.27 per share. So they're having some struggles, or having some internal issues, and fundamentally, you are associated with a well-run, profitable business. Now, here is the March of 2023 snapshot. It's not so good. We still have some red numbers on there. This is a comparison, though, to last year, 2022. And we will talk about this in just a second. What an outlier. The last half of 2020 to the first half of 2022, those were genuinely outliers in productivity. They were outliers in transaction count. They were outliers in everything. So comparing to that, the numbers, the red numbers, are getting smaller, and that's a good thing, right? The main thing we want to watch, the main thing we want to key in on is this comparison here. Our transaction count, benchmarks transaction count as compared to the market. And you can see that we were down slightly more than the market last month. And that is just on transaction count. Dollar volume, you can also see that inventory is up a little bit there. It's up 5% from February 28th. But a year ago, inventory was really bad. It was 975 units. So inventory has increased some. And then, of course, the affiliate count has risen quite a bit as well. We're now at 1,516 at the end of March. As of today, we are right at 1,530. So we've added several more affiliates over the last 30 days, which is a good thing. And we're almost at the end of April. We're talking about March here, so it's kind of an unfair comparison. And so far in our taillights, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. But just as a year-to-date comparison, the Q1, first quarter of 2023, last year we closed $1 billion, paid $27 million in commissions, 2,414 transactions. The market at the same time had done nearly 10,000 transactions, and our average sales price was $453. Comparing that to this year, we are down 24.2%, down 27% on gross commissions. The transaction count is down, and then the market is down as well. Again, this is the real comparison of what we look at is how did we do compared to the market? Because there's only so much we can do if the market is going south as well. And that's what you see there is that for the first quarter, January through March 31, we actually were better than the market by almost over a full percentage point. So that's a positive. And I've shown you this graph before, and I know all those who hate numbers, your eyes just crossed. I get it. But I just wanted to point out that picture tells 1,000 words. So this is the spreadsheet from which I work to create the graphs I'm going to show you in just a second. But I've now added March to it. And if you want to look at gross sales, what you see on your screen now is 2017 through 2023 of March, and you can see March of 23 creeping in there, and we're tracking right along beside 2021, which is kind of good, right? That means we're not way below it. That's a good thing. That's gross sales volume. Gross commissions kind of looks very similar. We are tracking right along behind 2021 there. You can see the blue graph behind the gray graph there on your screen. And you can see where 2017, 2018, 2019, they were all kind of bumping along the bottom. And then all of a sudden we had these outrageous years of 21 and 22 above. And you can see there that big orange line, how it shot up. That's 2022. And then how it kind of dove off the last part of the year. Transaction counts is what we really drive for, is what we were really concerned with. And you can see here that we are actually driving we are now above the 2020 number, which is about where we want to be. We believe, and I'll show you some more information here in a minute, we believe that 2023 will continue to go along at a higher level than 2017 through 2019 for some various reasons we'll talk about. But anyway, picture tells 1,000 words. That shows you and tells you the story in a picture there. How do we look forward? How do we figure out how things are? Well, we're tracking new contracts and dead deals. Okay, we're talking new listings, new contracts, dead deals. You can see there the top box is March of 23, and the bottom box is March of 22. Same number of work days in each month, but over here on the right hand side, you can see there is a Let me get my laser pointer here. Over here on the right-hand side, you can see that there are down numbers. So new listings were down at the end of March, 4.3%. New contracts were down 28.6%. Dead deals were actually up 14.4%. You have to have it in a contract. You have to have it in pending before it's actually going to close. Most times it doesn't close for another 25 days. So you can kind of predict from this what April is going to look like. 28.6% is a negative number. I don't think we're going to be that bad off. And what I'm seeing here the last couple of weeks of April, we're going to be better than that. So that's a good thing. That's a tribute to your productivity and your steadfastness in getting out there every day and going to work. I created a little graph that I show, or a little illustration that I show to the leadership team here that you may find interesting. What are the 3 pillars of our success as a larger organization? And this is what we track. It's increased transaction count, increased per agent productivity. You heard Rick talk about that. And then also increased operating expense control. Those are important to us. They should be important to you in your individual business as well, because you have to increase your productivity, you have to increase your transaction count, and you have to control your expenses, or you're going to be on the struggle bus. So just sharing that with you as a strategic plan and strategic goals of how we run Benchmark, and encouraging you to also employ those in your individual businesses as well. Local and national market information. How does it look? Well, doesn't look so good. Q1 of 2023, that's the first quarter of this year. I ran a graph to compare us to our biggest competitors. And what you see on the screen now, I have them ranked by productivity. By the way, they have our number wrong there because we have a bunch that are not on the MLS. We actually closed 1,800 deals, 1,800 plus deals. They have us at 1,623. And this is from Trend Graphics. It's just straight up raw data pitch here. So I'm guessing there's a little variability in the data. But this first column that you see here is closed transactions. And you can see the down arrows, 28%, 23%, 22%, 21%. EXP had the best negative. They were only down 15%. Others were down, Reliant, bless their heart, down 38%. That's in the first quarter of 2023. And then this over here on the right-hand side is gross sales, and they track pretty much the same way. Can't get their gross commissions because those are internal numbers, right? But this is data that's available through MLS tracking and the other data sources that we have. March existing home sales. We had a pop up in February. We've now had a pop down in March. With the national trend is tracking just like our local trends, just tracking just like benchmark trends. Okay. Now tracking an annual sales rate of 4.4 million. By the way, people ask me, when do you think we'll get back to 5 million again? And I'm saying you've got about a year and a half before we can think about getting back to 5 million units across the industry nationwide. But we're down 22% year over year on a national basis. Moving on to what that looks like on a 1 year existing home sales on a 1 year average, you can see 4.4 here that we just talked about on the big chart, but everything looks dramatic when you're up close to it. But when you take a step back, which is what this chart down here does, you can see that what an aberration these years were here that I just talked about. The last half of 2020 to the first half of 2022 were completely abnormal. If you were running a mean line across there, and of course over here in the right-hand side, this is February and March, you can see that we've now appeared to have come up off the bottom, but we're still not anywhere near where our mean line would be if we were to run an average or a mean line across here. So we still got some room to go. Fundamentally, the takeaway from that is the market has changed, and it's never going to be as busy as it was before, at least not for a long time. So you need to kind of put that around your head, put your head around that and grasp that and prepare your business accordingly. Pending home sales, a 3-year view. Again, you can see over here that pending home sales dropped off a little bit in March. So why do we care about pending? Well, it has to be pending before it gets to be a closing. So this is a good measure of what's coming down the road in a 3-year view. We are up off the bottom of the COVID lockdowns, which is what this down here represents, but we also are not even anywhere near the top of the 21 and 22 situation. Then a leading indicator, that's a leading indicator. That's what we call that. We use that to predict what the future is going to be. Another leading inventory indicator is inventory, right? Inventory has fallen off from a dramatic 1.3 million units to 980,000 units nationwide. The good takeaway here is that the inventory is holding steady. It's not dropping off. It's not shooting up. So that means we are now operating in a normalized market, buyers equaling sellers. And as inventory comes on, it's bought. As it goes off the market, it's replaced with new inventory. And that's an important element to look at, because if this were not remaining stable, if the inventory were going in the ditch, that would be a total lockdown of our markets. And that's a leading indicator we want to pay attention to. Another important leading indicator is, what is the Fed going to do? As I just mentioned, we've got the Fed open market meeting, FOMC meeting is coming up May 3rd and 4th. And on the 4th, we will have Doug Duncan. So we should be able to hear his opinion on that. This is what has caused our market to have such pause, because this impacts interest rates, not directly, but indirectly impacts interest rates. In a little over a year, they've gone from 0.08% to now 4.83%. That's a pretty big, that's the cost of money for banks doing business. And that's a pretty good indicator of what mortgage rates are going to be. Why? Because mortgage rates are based, and I showed this slide at the summit, mortgage rates are based on 10-year treasury bonds, and the price of 10-year treasury bonds are based on the Fed funds rate, the rate I just showed you in that previous screen. Therefore, you can triangulate or predict what 30-year mortgages are going to be by watching the rise in the Fed funds rate and understanding their connectivity and their relationship. It's called the spread between those two. The Fed, as we know, we hear this ad nauseum in the media. They're fighting inflation, fighting inflation, fighting inflation. I get that. And their belief is that they're going to have, they had some 75 basis points and 100 basis points. That's a 0.75% increase or a 1% increase multiple times. And that absolutely locked up the market. They've been doing these quarter of a point or 0.25% interest rate increases the last several meetings, and that has begun to taper off. Now, here's the problem. The Fed started too late to act on the inflation issue. And they did this the last time, back in 2007, 2008. They waited too long to act, and then they didn't slow it down. They didn't stop the action quick enough. And that threw us into a total, absolute, horrible, horrific recession. What I'm seeing now is that the Fed is beginning to ease up. They're beginning to taper out their increases. I think we've got one more increase to go at this next meeting. In fact, I believe the investors agree with me, because I've been watching the pricing on 30-year mortgages, mortgage-backed securities, and they're pricing in already another quarter of a point increase on this next Fed meeting. And then after that, it's going to taper off. And I don't believe they're going to pivot, but I think they're going to hold status and not have any more increases for the rest of this year. That's my belief. We'll see what happens. But if they do that, then they will have conquered what they want. They're at 4.83 now. To get to the 2% inflation rate, they've got to go to 5.6. But I believe they can do it without going to 5.6 and actually get to about 5 on their rate, and then taper this thing off where it makes sense. The bottom line is the market can stand high rates. They can stand low rates. What they can't stand is lack of predictability in rates. And that's an important thing to remember, because it just scares the bejeebers out of everybody when the rates are doing this. But when the rates kind of do this, even if they're gradually going up, it still makes sense to the consumer, because they still have to buy homes. So that's the important thing. Now, what is your soundbite to take away from this? What do mortgage rates do to your client? What do mortgage rates do to your business? And I've shown this chart before, but I want to show it again. This is the purchasing power of your consumer, your client, when interest rates change. Let's say your client has a $2,500 budget. Okay, so they can afford a home payment of $2,500. Well, over here at 3.75%, they can afford a $485,000 or $250,000 house. Okay, that's a pretty nice house for a $2,500 payment. And this is just principal and interest. It doesn't factor in all the other stuff. Now, when interest rates slide upwards to 7%, as they were at the time of the summit when I did this, that drops their purchase power down to $367,000. So it's a huge difference, but hopefully your loan officer has advised them on this. hopefully you have them pre-qualified before you put them in the car. If you don't, you need to stop right now and go do that on every one of your buyer prospects. Get them pre-qualified, have them counsel with a qualified loan officer, and make sure they understand this, that things have changed. Then I had some conversations, some chatter on the closed group the other day about the 110 rule. And I've said this at least 10 times, but please remember this. Every 1% uptick in interest means their purchasing power goes down by 10%. That's a key element, just a rule of thumb. You don't have to be a finance major or a loan officer to understand that. 1 up, 10 down. That's how it works. It has worked that way always in the history of the world. And let me say one other thing about interest rates. The historical average from 1921 to 2023, including all this craziness in between on the high side and the low side, the historical average is 6.75%. Over 75 years, the historical average interest rate is 6.75%. We just have an entire generation of buyers and agents who've never experienced a rate environment like this. Real estate continues no matter what happens in the interest rate environment, okay? People have a baby, need another bedroom. They have a job relocation, they have to sell one and buy one. They inherit grandma's house and have to sell it. The real estate function continues. The question is, are you top of mind, a distant second, or not playing in the game at all? If you are not staying in touch with your clients on a monthly basis, every month, you're going to be a distant second and you will never be in the game. Just a thought. All the interest rate discussion, predictions for next year. Here's what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac said back in January. It'll be interesting to hear what Doug Duncan has to say on May the 4th. But you can see a general tapering of interest rates as we go through the year. And I don't think we're going to get below 5%. I think the days of sub 5% are gone because of the economic conditions. But I do think there will be a tapering because there's one other element. As the Fed increases the cost of money, it reduces borrowing, and you reduce borrowing, you slow down the economy. So if you slow down the economy, then they've got to pause what they're doing and perhaps even inject liquidity back into the market. You saw it with the banking crisis. That was just a minimum small little blip on the radar. There's lots of other factors there. That's a whole different conversation we could get into about the banking crisis and SVP and why they failed. But it had a lot to do with the change in interest rates, and they bet wrong, so they failed. All those create recessionary environments, and that's what we have to be aware of. I think we will have a recession this year. I think fundamentally some sections of the country are already in a recession. And that also impacts what the Fed does in loosening or tightening the reins on the financial money control, which they have complete control of, and it drives what we do. The perverse relationship is that when recessionary environment hits, our business gets better because rates get lower. Now, that can be impacted by people losing their jobs and companies going out of business and that sort of thing. But as a general rule, if they don't get too crazy out of balance, the better the rate, the better our business is. So keep that in mind, and always, always, always be preparing your business for these eventualities. That's why I'm bringing you this information. And I appreciate very much y'all being here today. And again, I want to do another pitch for Doug Duncan's talk on the 4th, to make sure you have that signed up. Benchmark Dash, Bullseye, Learning Academy. Register for it. Do it right now. 2 factors that I'm convinced will hold our prices up in our market and in every other market. These are national trends here, is moderating inflation. So what the Fed has done so far has been successful. They brought inflation down from a 9% down to a reported 5%, at least by the statistics they gauge anyway. So however you look at it, even if you reject the fact that they're giving accurate numbers, the fact is that 9 is bigger than 5 where we are today, and that's been the downward trend of inflation. So what they've done has helped, and that will help stabilize home prices as well. The other one that helps stabilize home prices, which I have railed about for years with the National Home Builders Association and anybody else that'll stand still long enough, is we are not building enough houses to keep up with the population, much less to keep up with demand. We have an aging population. We have a lot of people that are coming in their first home buying years, and the aging population now is staying in their homes longer. So we have that issue to deal with. And then we have retirement living housing that we have to be concerned about. So there's been a 25% decline in permits in 2020, Q1 22 versus Q1 23. That's a quarter, 25%. So we're only permitting 75% as much as we were in the first quarter of 22. Something to think about, something to be aware of. And one of the things that I will tell you, all of this is, I know for those who are not numbers people, really kind of deer in the headlights type stuff. So we're going to push all this out on our Learning Academy, Benchmark Learning Academy. So you'll have the video and you'll have the slide deck. So you will have all of this. But one thing I want to stress to you in your success, your business, these are the 3 pillars of your business. And as I told Rick, as I said when I was talking to Rick earlier, you know, I'm not just some huckleberry sitting in the corner office making prognostications who's read a bunch of books. I've actually done what you do on a daily basis, many times 16, 17 hours a day. And I only started when I was 41. Okay, so I've only been doing this 21 years, but I still managed to sell more than 700 properties in that period of time. I started working on the business about 5 years ago, and that's when our business really took off. But if you will incorporate these 3 pillars of success in your business, it's a continuation of the theme of constantly sharpening the saw. Education, planning, that's business planning, financial planning, personal planning, asset allocation planning, and then actually take action. Stop hanging out at the house until noon each day. Pay attention to what you're doing, get up, go after it, sell some houses, and your business will explode. More than importantly than that, your business is survivable through these next coming months of funny market, fluid market, weird market. If you don't do that, this is where you're going to be. You're going to be on the struggle bus, and you're going to be sitting in my office crying about my business is in the toilet. I don't know what I did. I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to get back to success, when really your success was simply driven by the free money, the fake market that we had the last couple of years. So you can do this. I'm absolutely convinced you can do this. Markets will come and go. Rates will come and go. Demand for real estate remains, but the professionals always succeed. You are the professionals because you got up this morning, you got on this call, you're listening to this call. I know everybody else always has an excuse of why they can't do something. Don't buy into that. Never buy into the excuses. Keep going with what you have and you'll be fine. Along those lines, Fridays with Phillip, we are going to take a break in May. So there will not be a Fridays with Phillip in May, but June the 30th, we're going to have Stuart White, and hopefully he does not call an audible for me at the last minute like Rick did, but we will have Stuart White on here. And you've noticed a lot of changes in the last year, 2 years, 3 years with Realtor, and we're going to talk about the reasoning behind some of those changes. So you want to be sure and tune in. We will also have the full market stats that we had this month, as we always have those, just so you have a market update. So with that said, I want to say thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. We always welcome your comments and conversation and suggestions for topics to cover, how to do things better. We love constructive criticism, but we do not trust ideas that are divorced from execution. So if you have a complaint, bring us a solution. And we're always open to those suggestions. And with that said, my presentation is ended. So I think that at this point, we've still got a few minutes anyway, and I thought I'll just open it up and see what you guys have questions about. If there's anything in particular, I know there's some here in the chat. Let me just run through this and see if there's any questions that we need to comment on. You're welcome. Thank you for all the appreciation here. I'm glad that you found this useful. I'm glad you found it helpful. As I said, we will have it recorded. Not really seeing any questions or comments there. So if you have anything I can help you with, hit me up. Hit your broker up. We are always glad. Remember the Learning Academy and all the educational opportunities we have, because that helps you do your business better. And a great big shout out to Meredith Smith for participating in that on a national basis. And if I'm not mistaken, she's actually going to be on stage in one of these panel discussions at the Elevate conference. So she may not know that yet, but we'll find that out. She'll find that out later. All right. So appreciate you being here. We'll have this posted in a little while. Now go get them, Tiger. Y'all have a great day.